So the elections just happened this past Tuesday, and now we get to look at the aftermath about 6 days after. And today, it might not seem like a dad life thing, but it really is, because our kids are going to be growing up with all of the effects of this past election for decades to come. And so today we are going to look at some of the things that we enjoyed and liked seeing being passed in this past election, and some of the quirks that some of these bills had that you're like, wait, that's still legal, or why didn't they legalize that? I think you already have a hint of what we're going to be talking about. And so that's what we're talking about on this week's episode of Hashtag Dad Life, a part of the Beyond Real Estate podcast. As always, I'm Jalen McKenna with my co-host Nick Gumpert, joining me from sunny California. And today we are talking about the 2022 elections. We're not getting political. We're not talking about red or blue states. Bunk all that. We're looking at the ballot measures that were passed and were on the bill, and looking at why some passed, why some didn't pass, and really diving into what that means for our kids and their futures. So you won't want to miss this on this week's episode of Hashtag Dad Life.
Welcome to Beyond Real Estate with Jalen, the podcast discussing parenting, real estate, and business. Every week we go in depth on how to become successful in business and life. Jalen, take it away.
Like I said, we have election results, 2022 midterm elections, Democrats, Republicans, we don't care. We do care, however, about ballot measures, because those have a lot more weight for not only us in the immediate future, but our kids when they are able to vote, and how their lives are going to be shaped by the politics that we put into play every day. I think that is something that a lot of people don't realize when they are voting, especially on some of these things that we're going to be getting into, that you are not voting just on, hey, I don't like it, or I do like it, or I don't think that we should do that, or I do think we should do that. We constantly forget that the people that really feel the effects of these are going to be our kids. And so today, that is why I wanted to first bring up some very interesting ballot measures. But Nick, quick question. Did you follow 2022 election cycle at all? Or are you just, I'm here for the ride, baby?
Not in depth, no. I'm not an avid political advocate for either side, to be honest. I sit back on the periphery, and I like to listen to enough to have a good idea of what's going on, what the things people are voting for, and what's on the measure specifically for California, based on the fact that's where I live, and obviously on a domestic level nationally, but I don't dig into a lot of the weeds, no.
Talking about weeds, so North Dakota and South Dakota, it's been pretty normal nowadays to get marijuana. And whether you think that's good or bad, I mean, it's ultimately, we're the land of the free, home of the brave. Land of the free, that first part that I want to focus on, you should be free to do whatever the hell you want to if it's not hurting yourself or anyone else. And the argument has been put forth for a very long time that marijuana does not hurt you any more than, say, alcohol. So we are seeing a wave of states that are even more conservative states, conservative not only politically but socially, that are passing these laws that allow for you to recreationally use marijuana. And this last election cycle, we saw this very similar things. North Dakota, South Dakota, and Maryland were I'm sure there were others, but who cares? You can see we do a lot of research here. Maryland did pass it. So now, you know what, all of you people down in the Bay Area just don't know it's cold. You have the Ravens. I don't know what else you do in Baltimore. The rest of the state's irrelevant to me. You can now smoke marijuana recreationally. Good for you. You did it. You joined Colorado and Washington, California. Do you guys have that, or is it still medical?
No, it's allowed recreational.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's always those states that are like recreationally no, but for medical purposes. And it's like, how hard is it to get?
Yeah.
I have anxiety. Give me a card, and the doctor.
It's the same thing as a pet dog, right? Is it a service animal or not? Let me get the doctor that I know well, and he'll write up this stupid note. Now we all have service animals and peacocks and squirrels.
Yeah. The peacock just calms me when I have it and walk around in my blouse and my peg leg. I am a pirate, but my service parrot just keeps me in line.
And I need that with me when I go to the Bahamas.
Yeah, but now for the probably two of the most irrelevant states in the union, North Dakota and South Dakota. One, figure out your differences. No one cares about you guys. Either way, if you're one state or two, whatever. Yeah, they both said no to it. Like, okay, I guess give the tax benefits to the surrounding states, which I don't even actually know if the surrounding states do it. It's a part of the country where I'm like, I don't know why I'd visit, but you guys aren't giving me any reason to. Yeah, they said no to it on a very slim margins of just over 51%, like 50 point not something percent. I was just like, all right, cool. Yeah. So what do you think of that, Nick? Do you think that it should be something that just everyone, I mean, hell, just have access to it? Or are you in the...
Yeah, get it over with.
Like,
get it over with.
Right?
I feel like it's such a waste of breath to argue over it, in my opinion, just because, like you said, it's a personal choice. It's not really messing up anybody else's lifestyle. Do I do it personally? No. Do I enjoy the smell of it? No. But to each their own. And I think that's just a drug that it is what it is. And I don't know. I just don't see the purpose of bickering over dollars and cents anymore. Just let that tax money go into the education system. As weird as that is, that's the reality of a lot of the marijuana sales tax. It gets shot back into society. And I feel like it's become a buffer for a lot of educational programs. Not that it makes sense, but it literally makes dollars and cents. That's my opinion of it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. At the end of the day, it's like, and for anyone, it's like, well, what about the kids? Glad you asked. Kids are exposed to alcohol on a daily basis. Marijuana, I don't know if you've ever been around a pothead, but they are not very confrontational. So it's like, well, yeah, should you be doing it in front of your kids? I'd say no. But I also don't think you should be just slamming back hard liquor in front of your kids, but that's legal, and it has been for a long time. And it's like the hard liquor. How many people have great stories of their parents drinking alcohol in front of them being a great parent?
Cigarettes.
You know, it's like
cigarettes are more harmful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you have to blow through an entire pack in order to get your fix, whereas that's 1 or 2 puffs. Most people are good unless you have a habit of it.
Yeah, and I guess we're talking about the smoking piece too, right? Because you have other alternatives these days with edibles that people get their fix. So it's not even a stink thing. So
yeah, I mean, it just comes down to, I don't think you should do it, is how I feel when people are like, no, I don't think it should be legalized. It's like, why? Don't do it. Just like if you don't want to drink alcohol, don't drink alcohol. I don't.
Yep. And so, cigarettes.
Same deal, different day. And now let's go into one of the more interesting ones. So Oregon already had this, legalizing magic mushrooms, or psilocybin, as it is chemically named. And Colorado just passed that with, again, very tight margins. I think like 52% said, let me chase it. No, chasing the dragon is heroin. Not chase the dragon. That has not been legalized anywhere. But the magic mushrooms, yeah, some people are going to be doing that. And the amount of, I don't know if it's disinformation or just playing to whatever you think reality is. So the way that they have that, it won't be, you're not going to be able just to go buy a bag of mushrooms and walk down the street and start taking them. Like, I think that's what people thought it was going to be. That's not what it's going to be. For the people that said no, that I've heard people say that, oh, now they're going to be hopped up on something else. Bros, the crazy people that are running through traffic naked are not hopped up on alcohol or weed or any, that's meth. No one is legalizing meth. Okay. Like, I don't like, what weird fear mongering are you doing to be like, yeah, no, you shouldn't be able to do magic mushrooms. This is for therapeutic reasons, which to Nick's and I point earlier, you have a liberal enough doctor, just write that script, you can go do it. But it's at a treatment facility where someone will be watching you to guide you through the trip. Like,
people cannot do that at their house.
No, that is not what this is. But it has decriminalized it, which I completely agree with, because at the end of the day, if someone wants to do it, why am I putting you in jail for doing something that affected literally just yourself? Yeah. What if they do crimes off of that? Well, then they go to jail for the crimes they commit. I don't like, why is this in like, it's not like, oh, he was high on mushrooms, so that's why he could start streaking through the middle of downtown. No, it's not
drinking and driving. Oh, you're drinking and driving, like that's a crime and you'll get convicted of that crime.
Yeah, you do mushrooms or smoke marijuana and you drive, it's still a crime. It's DUI, driving under the influence.
Impairs the ability. Sure.
Yeah. It's like no laws have changed for not decriminalizing all behavior while on a substance. That was not what was on the ballot. I mean, just asinine reasons for it. Nick, is this going to be where you're like, well, time to take a trip to Colorado and discover my inner self?
Definitely no trip to discover my inner self. And I am very naive in this, I don't know, in the drug world, to be honest. I wasn't one to experiment a lot. So I can't say I can wholeheartedly agree with the decision to do it, to legalize it. Nonetheless, with you explaining the parameters of it, to me, I'm just like, okay, moving on. Next.
Right.
Not bothered. I'm not bothered emotionally just because I do not agree with doing drugs in the first place. I don't agree doing them, but it still doesn't bug me enough as someone who doesn't do them to say, oh my God, this is so dumb. Just because I don't do it, this shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
I agree. If it's going to help someone's situation and it's and it's being supervised, like, okay, we voted for it, moving on. And
Yeah.
that's that.
And it's been proven to do so too. It's been proven to help with people with their, why can I not think of the one that a lot of veterans have, PTSD.
Okay.
It's been proven to help people with PTSD to take them. It's been proven to help with people with anxiety or depression. Like, you can't fight it. Like, no one's prescribing alcohol for those things. In fact, alcohol just exacerbates all that. So it's like, well, we already have arguably one of the worst consumables out there, already legalized and available nationwide, no issue. And now we're just saying, yeah, science says that this is good. So why are we
monitored and it's prescribed? Yep.
Yeah. The opioid epidemic. It's like,
how much would you like?
Yeah. Oh, that was legal. Well,
Right.
And that ruined so many people's lives.
Yes.
Yeah. So interesting things there. The other thing I wanted to point to, just a few, well, maybe before we go to those other things, what about your kids? Sorry, parents, you have to have the exact same conversation you're going to have with them already, or we're hopefully going to have with them. I mean, it's not like making something legal now makes it more easy to get for minors. It's all those crimes, again, still exist. Distributing to a minor, giving to a minor, all those things, those are still punishable crimes. You can't do it. It's 21 and older for psilocybin. It's 21 and older for marijuana. Can't, if you're a minor caught with it, it's a minor in possession. If you're giving it to a minor, that's distributing to a minor. You still have these laws. They didn't go away. So anyone that's like, well, our kids are going to be suffering. No, they're not. Sorry, you have to parent and explain to them, hey, whether you do it or not, this is something that happens. This is why it's available. This is why some people do it. I don't do it, or I do it, but it's for this, or this is why I do it. You just have to have sorry, parents, you have to have a conversation with your kids. I know. Dang it, other people having freedoms now means that I have to explain something to my kids. I hate that. The other thing was, there was a few ballot measures, and Nick, I want to get your perspective on this, and they all failed, and in my opinion, thankfully, of needing 60% of the popular vote for future ballot measures to pass. So first, Nick, I want to hear your thoughts on why you thought those were on the ballot, and secondly, whether you think that's a good idea or a bad idea.
Well, I can quickly bypass that first question because I don't dig into the weeds to understand the why behind it. So maybe that's a bad thing. Nonetheless, since I don't understand that, coming and living in this great nation that we have where it's a democracy and they say majority votes, I don't understand why 60% is necessary in a country that has agreed that if you get over 50% majority, you're the winner. So it just makes zero logical sense to me. I would love to have someone out there post it up in our comments who maybe does know that initiative best. Say, well, yeah, this is why it makes perfect sense to get why 60% is good enough and 55% is no longer good enough. Yeah, because I can't fathom that one, to be fair. So let me throw that back in your court, Jay. What's your thought?
Yeah, I think it's people that I'm sure there's people that aren't going to like this answer. People that are wanting to hold back progress, in all honesty, because there are a few things like the psilocybin, magic mushrooms passing, things like that we'll get to in a second, like ranked choice voting, that is probably going to become more prominent in the coming decades. Just things that you are afraid would pass on a simple majority, and you're wanting to cut that out. And while I can understand some of the pushback from it to say, well, we don't want everything to pass on 50%, effectively you're saying 50% of the people are idiots. So with 60%, we're getting more to level heads if something can pass to 60%. But at the same time, I think that some of these more progressive, socially progressive bills would have a better chance of passing a simple majority than a supermajority, just because of how split America is nowadays politically. And I don't honestly think that it's a bad idea to allow for a simple majority to continue to do the things that we have done for over 250 years. So anyone that's like, no, we should push it to 60, I just push back and say, where were you with that, like, over the last 250 years?
Sure.
There's been plenty of things that a 50-50 split, in retrospect, we're like, yeah, we're glad that it passed just barely over 50%, because otherwise we'd be very far behind.
Well, and to flip that, I can't say I've thought this one out, but what passed by 51% that we regrettably say, oh my God, I can't believe that passed and it's ruined us? I honestly can't, there's not one thing that comes to mind, not saying that there isn't, but yeah, just to flip that question.
Yeah, and the only thing that really comes to the top of mind for me would be like prohibition. I can't imagine that passed supermajority, but maybe it did. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on that, but something like that. But again, even if that was the case, I would say, well, that's an example of something that was not a progressive policy, sense of moving society forward and being like, no, it's legal. Alcohol, that being like, eventually we were like, hey, that's not right. So yeah, plenty of someone though. Give us the 60%. Why is that a good idea? Yep. There was still people that voted. There was, I think it was in Alabama or Arkansas, Louisiana, Arizona, somewhere down in the South. That one's ranked choice, which we'll get to in just a second. But I know one of those 3 states, it was close to being 60%. Wow. In another state, it was close to having 60% saying, no, we don't want 60%. So, well, interesting. So then the last one that I want to get to, and this is one that I think if we really want to talk about future generations and how this will impact them the most, it is this form of voting that is becoming more and more popular called ranked choice voting. I'll explain it to you in a second, but it was on the ballot in Nevada. And it looks like, let me just pull up here. I have it on this other screen for ballot initiatives. Ranked choice voting is currently leading with 90% reporting at 52%. Once this comes out, hopefully they've counted all those votes. We'll know for sure. But ranked choice voting basically allows you to vote for a third party or a less popular party and not worrying about your vote not counting. Give you some context. In the history of voting, it's always been you get one vote, and you still get one vote, but you get to say, hey, these are my preferred candidates, or you can say, I just want this one candidate. If they don't win, I don't want anyone else but this person. Perfect. You are completely fine with still voting for that one person. But say you do really go for Green Party or Libertarian, and they're your number one, but in the past, you couldn't vote for them because overall, Libertarian, Green Party, you're not going to win a seat. You're not going to get that 50%. And so you'd always feel like your vote didn't matter. Well, now with this system, if no one reaches 50% of the vote or more in that first round of voting, then it means, hey, we now go to start cutting off any of those other parties that didn't reach a certain threshold of votes. And now all those people that did vote for those parties that didn't reach that specific threshold, they now get to enact their second choice. So it's still your one vote, but now you're just saying, hey, my second choice is now getting a vote. And so that means, hey, Libertarian first, Republican Party second. Libertarian Party no one reached 50% overall. Now your second choice goes towards the Republican Party. And so your vote goes towards Republican instead of just not counting at all. And I am a big proponent of that. Alaska already has it. And for those of you that followed the Sarah Palin, I can see Russia from my backyard. She was running for the one House seat in Alaska, and she actually lost. It's what happens when you start trash talking your opponent a lot. Everyone might put their second vote towards the other guy, towards the Democrat, and that's exactly what happened. And so the Democrat ended up winning because enough people were like, I do not want Sarah Palin. I'd rather have a Democrat over Sarah Palin. And so the Democrat won that House vote. So Nick, what do you think of that? And I know you haven't thought of it much, but how do you think that American politics would change if ranked choice voting became let's just say, law of the land?
It's a great question, and $1 million question, I guess, to say, how would that change it? Because honestly, I don't know. I just think that is a better system. So yeah, I definitely have not dug into this concept much, but just at surface level, I'm thinking it's better because, like you said, it doesn't discount your first option. Like you said, I feel like so many people might have given in to say, well, here's my true belief, but it's not going to matter, so I have to vote for one of the top two. Yep. I think it would just create more credibility and a more realistic outcome, I guess, when you know that those are now your options. I think inevitably your immediate drawback is from those people who, just don't listen enough to understand what this means, because I can already see so many people that would brush over at surface level saying, oh, nope, you have more than one vote. And it's like, no, you don't. But again, to the novice, I think that's how it will be summarized very quickly, is that, oh, you can now vote 3 times for the same situation. It's like, that's not the case. you're not listening.
No, you can't vote for the same candidate 3 times. You can't put them as your top 3 choices. That wouldn't make sense for ranked choice anyway. You
Right.
get the one vote anyways. The reason why I'm a big proponent of it is because it allows for the historically less popular, but purely because of what you were saying, it just makes you feel like that it's just not, you're, hey, I don't agree with that party. I really agree with this party, but this party just doesn't get enough votes. So if I vote for them, my vote doesn't count, essentially, is what it feels like. And so I have to vote. Like, begrudgingly, I'm picking the lesser of 2 evils.
Right.
Is how I feel like a lot of people have felt. And this would allow for a lot more of those independent candidates, those 3rd, 4th, 5th party candidates that maybe they do just really talk to that local demographic. And historically, they haven't been able to because people were like, if I vote for him, my vote's gone. And the odds of that party getting 50% is probably 0.
Well,
because
Yeah, and I think the interesting part about this too is you have to inevitably overcome Democrats and Republicans embracing this opportunity to vote for this, right? Like I said, it exists in Alaska, and it was voted on in Nevada, and maybe Arizona. So it'll be interesting if this gains traction over the next 5 years, or if it just comes to nothing. Because again, when you have 2 major, I feel like that's our system in America. It's like you have 2 conglomerates in so many spaces, and it's virtually impossible, I feel like, to get past those top 2. They just get so big and so dominating and filter out and gobble up the rest that I hope this gains traction, because again, I think it makes the system better. I don't think you need to change for the sake of changing. Say, oh, nope, it's run its course. I think, okay, that's a better way of doing it, and why not change to it? But again, to overcome the 2-party system, which is what we've essentially become, I think that's a tough uphill battle for sure. But again, it comes back to our kids to say, what future do we want to have for them? And I think it makes 0 sense to say, well, we've done it this way all the time, so we should continue to do it this way all the time. Again, that's no excuse to do something over and over again, just because that's the way you've always done it.
Yeah, 100% agree. And this is a common thing in other countries, to be honest. And that's why we hear when there's an election, they had to create a coalition. They had to form a coalition government. And that's basically what that means, is that person's party does not have nearly enough majority in order to just run the government. They need to work with these other smaller parties in order to create a majority to actually get anything passed. And so you do have the hyper-progressive party, and you have the moderate progressive party, and you have the moderate conservative party, and you have the hyper-conservative party. So you force everyone to work together more at a government level versus just saying, well, the whole rules of the game are just get the majority and then force shit through. It's just, it stops you from doing that, and it stops you from bad-mouthing the other candidate as much.
Point proven.
If you just talk bad about everyone left and right, it's like, you're not gonna, even if you get elected, the other parties just aren't gonna want to work with you. And so you gotta tone down the negative rhetoric, be like, how can I actually work with other people that I might disagree with on some points, which makes a better governing system overall. But those are our perspectives on this last election. Again, screw blue, screw red, we don't care. Ballot initiatives, and those ones that are going to affect our kids more so than us, in all reality, all of these that we talked about today. So let us know what you think. Let us know if there's any ballot initiatives that you thought, what the fuck is going on there? We'd love to hear from you in the comments, and feel free to subscribe, share this with anyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode of #DadLife, bit of an odd one, but hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you guys here on Wednesday, where we are going to be talking about, did we just see the best raise or best decrease of inflation in a while? Yes, we did. How is that going to affect housing prices? Well, we're going to be talking about it on Wednesday. So be sure to join us then, and we will see you on Wednesday with the Real Estate Roundup. Thanks for tuning in.
Want to see, hear, or listen to more of Nick's take on California real estate market? Check out my links below.
Also, check out the links below for more information on products, books, or references made in this podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.